Okay, so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about um, everything that's going on around us, what we see externally, and also uh, kind of describe a little bit more about what the age of Aquarius actually means. Um, because we have all these kind of labels and terms for things, and I'm not a massive fan of labels because to me that is divisive. It separates people if we start labeling each other into putting each other into categories. But the age of Aquarius as an umbrella term, the way I have come to understand it is that it basically means that we're going through a change of epoch, which is kind of like a long period of um, a way of being, a way of perceiving things, a way of living our lives, etc. So, the way I feel about it is that we're going through a change of epoch, which is also like a change of age or a change of era. And what that means really is that we're moving from one vibrational, informational age, if you like, into another vibrational age of information. So the base vibration has changed. So what that means is we're processing a new informational construct, which translates or is decoded as a new era of expansion, awareness, and acknowledgement. So the age of Aquarius is an age of light meaning expansion of awareness, expansion of knowledge, or an abundance of knowledge, if you like. So it kind of means that certain elements of the collective have an acknowledgement of the massive potential to create something new. So at the moment, humanity is sort of collectively standing right at the cusp of the change, which means that we have access to both the old epoch and the new epoch. And that's kind of the weird thing. We're at this precipice, if you like, or the cusp of the change. So it kind of gives us a choice in terms of which direction we want to go in. So we can embrace the light, embrace the change, or we can just remain in that old epoch, Piscean age, if you like, of oppression, darkness, which darkness is lack of information, lack of light, light being information. And so, we can choose to sort of go for this abundance of information that is being put into our direction. It offers us a choice to transform our environment, our world. We can create a new world. We can break out of the mind prison, really, if you like, which is the old epoch. The old epoch is the mind prison of being trapped because we have lack of information. We've been, we're currently living through the age of information. So we've got an option to embrace that. We have that opportunity to learn and to look at different things, become critical thinkers, which, the way I understand it, critical thinking is looking at everything. We don't close our minds off to anything. We look at everything, and it's kind of like putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And if we look at everything and we're not lazy and we research things and take things on board, we don't allow our egos to sort of say, well, that doesn't resonate with me, I don't like that, that offends me. If we kind of look at everything from a kind of neutral standpoint, we can then start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and the pieces that don't fit, we can discard. Then we start to get a picture of what resonates with us on a vibrational level. So in terms of like, you know, parallel realities, different things going on at the same time, that's kind of the meaning of it. We can decide to be in that epoch feeling state, or we can go, you know, stay with the old epoch's feeling state. You know, so do we choose that route of light, or do we want to stay comfortable and stay in the old? So, you know, it kind of makes me think that we have these truth vibrations coming toward, it's kind of like a truth vibration. But then people will say, well, you know, what truth is you know, down to an opinion or a perception based on our own individual experience. But you know, we've got this opportunity, this, to embrace the truth vibration, if you like, and go with it. So it kind of is a choice, you know. So, and we're on that precipice now, and I feel like it's a bit like the 100th monkey effect. You know, we get to a certain point, and then there's like a tipping scenario where there is a kind of division of people, where they are, you know, or a collective consciousness division, where one half is staying in the old epoch and the other half is staying in the new epoch.
Nikki, are you still there?
Yeah. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is something that we all, like, it's kind of always been talked about, right? I mean, for me personally, I think the age of Aquarius is a loaded word and a loaded term. So I personally wouldn't use that phrasing. Um, it kind of, what I mean by that, it triggers, uh, you know, for me, it kind of like triggers 1967 and the hippies in San Francisco, and they're talking about the age of Aquarius and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people, you know, too, would is like kind of new age or whatever. But what we're getting into is something that um, we all intuitively kind of feel at a certain level or not. Is that, and this kind of goes back to something that I really like and what I'm really into, is kind of Eastern philosophy and the I Ching. And I Ching is one of the oldest um, books, and it's kind of like this oracle type of book where you go to it and you throw these coins, or they used to do these sticks and kind of like ask it a question. And it's, the I Ching means the book of change, and it goes on this principle that there's this natural ebb and flow to the Tao, which is the flow of everything, the flow of energy that makes up everything reality. And there's just a natural cycle in it, and it moves like water or wind. And this is the type of motion and imagery that they project out. And you know, if you go to the age of Aquarius, you know, it reflects water, and a lot of people say that the water represents information, how information getting flowed to us in this age of technology, and all these kinds of symbols. But I think, you know, like I remember having the same feeling. Everybody kind of like goes through this, right? oh, this is 2012. We had uh, Y2K. Everybody kind of was like, oh, this is the age of when we're gonna change, and this is the moment, and everything's gonna be different after this. And it's weird because I think on a personal level, everybody is changing, even if you're staying kind of like the same. You know, uh, like we can't help it. Like just on a physical level, there's cells in our body that die, and then we get new cells. And like I think it's in 7 years, we're a totally different physical being. There's no single cell that is no longer in your body that was in your body 7 years ago, and so you're totally different uh, uh, in the microscopic level of your being. Uh, and so even though you're the same you're the same person, Daniel, but you have changed physically, and this is just how things go. But there's a continuum of this flow of change and the ripple effects of things that are in the past, and there's this where you're talking about the vibration and the energy of everything that's connected to each other. And so I think for me personally, and what you're saying too, which I connect with, is about labels and framing things. In one sense, it is useful to use certain imagery or phrases or whatever, but I think I've always, in some roundabout way, expressed this to people when we talk and we get into conversations or whatever. For me, it's about transcending labels, transcending ideology, transcending all this kind of stuff. Nietzsche had this really good book, Beyond Good and Evil, and basically what it was about is about that transcending. Even in that, he said there are no kind of truths or facts. There's only interpretations of it, and I think there are actual, let's say, facts or truths, but they could they're that are independent of us, the single unit of consciousness that I call myself, Daniel. There's stuff that is beyond me that are true, in fact, independent of me, but they could I could only experience them by getting processed through my own perception, my own filter of my being. So there's you play that game when you're little of telephone, and every time it goes through a different um, process, it gets the data gets slightly changed, right? And this kind of happens too with our DNA, right? Even identical twins, they share the same DNA sequence, but through their whole lives, like I know these two twins, they're identical twins, and they grew up, in the same household, same basic experiences, but they're totally different people. So the, there's this thing of these little micro changes, and I like this thing about cha- change. The moment of like the of what when things change is a horizon, so you can never really know when you're in it. When is that point of when everything changed? But when you look back, you could see it, and you see that for yourself, right? I like at every stage of your life, you may think, oh, whatever, this and that, and then it would take someone else to be like, oh, like oh, what, you seem different, and I'm like, what do you mean I seem different? Or like when little kids, right? If you're with a kid and you don't see them really grow, and then if you see them every year or whatever, and you're like, damn, you grow really tall. So when you're in there, you can't notice the change. You just but it's happening all the time, on the surface, all sorts of different ways. It's happening, this change. It's inevitable, even if but looking back, you could start to like nitpick about it. But I think this kind of goes into what I want to kind of segue and prod Kevin a little bit about. If Kevin remembers, we had this conversation. You had a dream or some vision, and it was about how we're living in the past and our about our attention kind of being focused on the past, and the future selves of us or whatever is encoding the present. If you remember that, correct? I think I getting the gist of it. Kevin, do you remember?
Yeah. So just to sort of give some groundwork to that, I've been having a lot of physical experience, feelings from in me, like headaches and like achy stuff and weird physicalities. Like I'm in perfect health and in good shape and everything, but there was these um, physical manifestations of all of this energy, and everyone I was talking to on Minds, we were all expressing this overwhelming flood that, like Nikki had pointed out, a sort of a vibrational change in the channel, and I hadn't correlated any physical um, feelings towards my perception of reality at all until I started talking about it with the the people who are a little more empathic on Minds, and it was pretty interesting. Um, just that I clearly saw that we create our reality. Um, every we sort of manifest what we're going to be overnight. When we wake up, we're living in what we've already done. So when you think in the worlds of intention, you become kind of aware that there's actually a you that is doing a whole lot of work in the background on another parallel dimension. We're trans-dimensional beings, where with our physical being here is just a piece of the time that we exist, and time space here is relevant to our ability to click off time in this dimension. So I could probably just reiterate the whole thing for you if you want. And let's see, I'm just digging it up right now. I don't want to leave any dead air. Just give me a second. I saw the whole thing this morning. We live in our past, and our intentions code our future. We are trans-dimensional beings, but on the other side, we are energy, and we choose our shapes. Our elders made this earth to feel, and to taste, and to be high and low. We advanced so far, on the other side, we lost our space-time dimensional selves. We code our future in the other place and exist in it here. We can only change as much as others will change, and that is why we're losing our independence to the oppressors here, is we stopped existing within our own power and started existing in other people's power. We have the opportunity to write any future we want for ourselves, but we must be clear and focused and project our intentions into the future self of our trans-dimensional beings to code for us. This is the way we always communicated in consciousness before people started to handle other people, because we gave ourselves over to being one-dimensional and not tending our own garden. The earth gives us the desire and gives us the dreams that give us the meanings to the future coding of ourselves. And as her life dies from our negligence, so does the scope of our wonder and how we write the future self. We can only write the future self, but people can volunteer their future self to others for more physical experiences here in this dimension. But when it comes at the cost of other life, we suffer from taking life force. We can actively interface with the us that is in the other dimension, and when we believe strongly enough, they write the future that manifests to our lives, which is actually the future coding of ourselves. And as her life dies from our negligence, so does the scope of wonder and how we write. Oh, and then it jumped back. Anyway, you get the gist of it. Functionally, we're living in the past that we write for ourselves every day. We write it and then we live it. So what we say and think and believe in our hearts and in our actions and in our minds becomes our truth, proportional to the fact that we are part of the system that we're involved in. We can only transfix so much of what we are in someone else's personal belief. We can only offer to them a vision or a scope of view of something that could be. And if they're willing to embrace it, then it becomes that. And that's the hard part, is people believe that they're just the physicality of themselves, that they're just part of a scope, and don't understand that they're capable of changing fundamentally the way their perception of life and the world can be. So I'll just give it back to you guys.
Yeah, I think for me personally, whether I know it or not, and usually it's not until I go back and reflect, but part of what you were saying about having this, and we were talking about it before the show too. I was talking to Nikki, and we were discussing it pre-show of me and Kevin, that I've been feeling kind of recently unfocused or a little distracted or in this lull or whatever it is. And I know, let's say prior to last week and the week before, Nikki and Kevin were expressing that. And I think sometimes it's that overwhelming feeling of, let's say, of the energetic flow of things, the overwhelming feeling of the chaos, I guess, of, because I know, like, maybe not, from moment to moment I don't realize this, but later when I kind of like rest and take a break and really kind of like, because you go through your day-to-day stuff, and it's not until you kind of like you take a break and you kind of just have a chance to breathe, and then you're like, okay, what's going on? And a lot of times too, maybe the distraction is doing the creative work, but the moment you kind of have like this come down, and you think like, oh man, like because sometimes you really feel like, oh man, we're on this crest of everything's gonna change, and we're gonna do this great whatever it is, whatever you want to manifest, and you think you're on the crest of it just coming into being, and then you do whatever your project is, or you're trying to manifest your intention or whatever it is, and then you kind of like, oh, and then you're like, okay, but there's so much else that is like combating my attention and my whatever energy that I'm adding to the change that I want to see in the world is only a drop in this ocean of other stuff. And you know, you get this really feeling of being lost or overwhelmed. I think it's just overwhelming sometimes. And I remember even before I even thought about doing something creative to help change the story of humanity is the way I like to phrase it now. Prior to that, there was a lot of moments, and for me, the thing that kind of broke me through to pursue or even think about changing the story of humanity and where we are as people or expressing consciousness and digging into all this other stuff that I think art, creativity, poetry, reality, perception, all this is all tied into the same thing for me. Um, was psychedelics, and there were moments where you just felt the weight of the world or the weight of consciousness, and that I mean, a lot of times too, especially if you're taking shrooms, you have this innate feeling of the of Gaia. And like for me, it represented of the earth pulsating, like if it was breathing, like someone's chest going up and down and it has this rhythm. And that's exactly like the whole earth would be pulsating, and you could feel this kind of like pain of the world. And I don't know if that was like a projection because of maybe some pain I was feeling, but I do think there is this overwhelming sense of neglect, and we were talking about this, that us as a human beings, as a whole of humanity, have lost this sense of the greater whole of life. You know, I think any true art expression is this expression of this continuum of life, and that it's beyond our individual being, it's beyond even humanity, and music connects us to this energy, to this vibration that is the same as I phrase it as the songs of eternity, the heartbeat of the universe. I mean, you get into these, and then this is what visuals, especially the stuff that I try to use, is trying to express, and we're out of tune of that. We're no longer dancing the same song as the world or the universe, I think, and we're out of sync of that. And a lot of our own internal distraction and even society distraction and humanity, the arc of where we're going is that we're out of step of that, and it's manifested as we're losing wild spaces. Kevin knows the percentage of a species that we're losing, and this we're distracted by this debate of climate change. If is it real or not, or is it some conspiracy for us to be anti-capitalism, or whatever stupid highlight that we have on these posts. For me, that's a false argument. That doesn't matter. Like, we should have more vision, and we should. It is the truth for me is getting beyond even our. It's integrating all our being to understand this intuitive knowledge, and it goes into, you use all your faculties. And I explained this kind of on the last show. For me, intuition is all your senses working in unison together, and unbroken, and seamless together, and then you have this intuitive feel of like, oh, whatever it is. And that's the truth that is beyond, let's say, your distortion of your perception of it. And we can nitpick about, oh, this word means that, or that word means this, or this study said that climate change was fake, and no, this study says that climate change is real. Like, all that doesn't matter. Like, what matters is that, one, we could see how the environment is affected. Two, if you stop and you breathe, you could feel that there's something essentially not right. And what it is that we should be able to have this longer view of being in harmony with life, and not at this conflict of life. And it starts with the harmony of yourself, right? The harmony within yourself. And I think you Kevin posted this pretty great article about old souls having been in conflict with their friends and family. And I think almost everybody that's on Minds kind of feels this, because one way or another we always have this like talk. But it's because for a lot of us, especially I'm speaking more of original. I hate to use that, but old school Minds, when Minds was still in this, and it's still not cemented, but I would say when we first all got onto Minds, I think a lot of us were there because we had this innate feeling of something's not right, and we need to find and connect to people to change. And it's like as simple as that. Whatever form it took, that's kind of like the root to it. We didn't like something's not right, and we need to change, or I want to change, but we also knew that the change needed to be exponential. That we needed to connect and have this reverberation of that change, so that it could help, in a sense, change the tide of things. And I think this is something we always go to on Infinite Imaginarium, something I always deal with individually. And I think this is getting to the point of, because I really didn't know prior going into the show what the point of the show was, and sometimes that's fine. And I think I said this the last show. I think when you're not feeling right, like you're not feeling totally creative, or you're feeling a little lost, I think the Imaginarium is more important to come into than when you're everything's great and you're feeling immense in your ability to change your reality, or you're in harmony with your being, or whatever it is. And I think for me, I come into this point of reaffirming this thing, and this thing is of expressing the new story, which is a lot like the old story of, and I like this definition of love that I took, I forgot from who, but love is the felt experience of another. So reconfirming this expression of love for a life. So having this felt experience of connection to life, and expressing it in a multitude of ways of grabbing people's attention and helping them to either integrate it or sustain it, or to amplify it, whatever it is. I think that's part of what I need personally, on a personal level, from day to day. For first and foremost, most of the time I make whatever I make for myself. It's kind of funny, you know. I think that's how most art should be. If you stay true to your own self, then everything else would take care of itself. And this is a long view, and I think we were talking about this earlier. Like, how do we sustain this momentum of keeping the long view of things? Because I kind of expressed this to Nikki. We were talking about how she needed to be uplifted at a certain moment. Like all of us, you know, like we're feeling a little confused, lost. We're like, oh, we need some inspiration, or it's not even maybe that like cognitive, but you're like, oh, you're just clicking through the internet, just surfing something to see whatever. And she went into one of the videos, and she said that the video connected with her, and that she even made her cry. And then she's, oh, that might sound weird. I was like, no, it doesn't sound weird. It sounds cool. And I said to her, a single teardrop is worth more than 1 billion likes. And I truly mean that. Like, for me, this is the payoff. The payoff, I think a lot of people, where we need to transcend the like, transcend the view, transcend the remind, transcend all of this stuff that we have of the attention economy of the internet. Like that's just a tool to do it, but it's not the means. The means is that felt experience with someone else, transcending space and time. That a video that I made 2-3 months ago found Nikki at the right time and the right moment to help her for whatever it was in that moment, in that time. And that felt experience is worth more than all my views, likes, subscriptions, all that stuff. I have over 1 million views on my channel, and I don't even know how many likes or whatever. Like, I would trade all of that in, because that is not nearly as worth as much as what Nikki told me. And you know, like what I'm feeling right now, and what I always really get to when we do the shows, or when we're working in a collaborative way, is this experience right now, this experience of love, of just being connected to each other. I use the phrase like deep network connections about trying to encapsulate what I'm feeling. And it's hard, like, because this in a sense, it goes back to like, we need that dope ass beat, right? We need to get attention so that something deep, that connection, could get to people. And I think a lot of the stuff that's going on now is that there's a lot of dope ass beats, right? There's a lot of things that are grabbing your attention, but once you get your attention, it leaves you empty. You don't feel the connection, so you go to the next thing to distract you, to the next viral video, to the next whatever it is. And you don't even, I don't think a lot of times you kind of mindlessly do it. I mean, all of us kind of, you know, kind of binge watch something, or, you know, you need a break and you just do this. I don't know. It's something that I know for me, I constantly have to reaffirm into myself and get like refocused or whatever. But I also think too that to embrace feeling not all right, like, you know, embrace the chaos, embrace the confusion, because I think it's natural, and it can and it should be useful to help navigate your change within you.
I think that, you know, sometimes we forget that we can be multi-dimensional in consciousness. So we think that we have to do things in a certain way, and if we don't do things in that specific way, that we're wrong, or we've done something wrong. In actual fact, we can flit in and out of different scenarios, hence being multidimensional, and take what we need, not in a negative sense of like, I'm going to take from you and leave you barren, leave that environment barren because I've taken something. But you can flit in and out of different densities, different dimensions, and come to an understanding of something that may have eluded you before. So you can then become more evolved because you have that ability to be multidimensional, if that makes sense.
You still there, Nikki?
Yeah. I'm still here.
I think
I just finished the spiel. Can you hear me?
yeah. I think when we're talking about the test, I think we're at the point of being tested to how long we can swallow this intensified duality. Like it's not even a marginal duality that we're locked into right now, where we sort of see where spirituality and the function of the human condition are pulled upon, but with the amount of rhetoric that's I think that the strange thing about society in the current paradigm is once we uncorked the bottle of audacious behavior, like when you look, for me, I can look back to Happy Days and Leave It to Beaver and those Black and Leave It to, Lucille Ball's show. And you look back to those days where you couldn't even imply words, that all of the sort of tasty bits were left to your imagination. And the same implicate form was used in theater and was used in movie, and all the things that we would have given ourselves the innocence to fill in the blanks of nowadays are thrust upon us, and we're forced to react as opposed to fill in. And the test to me is how long is this made up duality world going to be palatable for the human condition? How long can we passively yell at each other, do nothing about their real problems, and just continue to go along in our purported selves without any spiritual sense, without any reverence for each other and for our spaceship? Like we have to do maintenance on our spaceship because the oxygen generator is getting played with, and all of science and all of information and all of cosmology, the further out and the further in, are all pointing us back to our balanced selves, our non-dual selves. The things that Daniel and I focus on with science and non-duality is that we are an energy being having this physical experience, and what our capacities are to live within that. Because in myth, everything is possible. But as the more intense, the more rhetorical, the more forceful bits of it come, it sours. It becomes something that nobody wants what we have right now. But let's just say that flat out. Nobody wants this steeply polarized, deeply divided, non-authentic human being world that we're living in, where it's all electronic communication, and our capacity to really deeply say I love you and hold friendships, and that it goes by the wayside when you live in fallacy, when you live in non-truth. Only innocence can only exist in fundamental truth, in a reality where we are honoring each other for the basic things that we are, and not the face that we're putting on, or the layer of makeup that we're putting on to show the rest of the world. So I think that's what the test is the test is, how long can we, or will we implode? What will society implode because of the pressure it's put upon itself? Because that's sort of, the wise man sits back and watches and says that it's it's so corrupt and it's so evil, it's going to tear itself apart, and all we have to do is survive the intense emotions and intense feelings that are being thrust upon us, because simple people are easily pleased. They're happy with the cup of coffee. They're happy with a kiss from their child and a warm hug, and the love of their significant other. Most people aren't driven by these delusions of um, baubles and fancy things. It's just, most people don't have any necessity. It would be nice to have some more comforts, or but most people really don't need that. So I don't know what you guys think. Is it going to pull itself apart, or are we going to help do it?
I think we're, from what you were saying, Kevin, consciousness having a human experience. So we're kind of faced with, in one way, too many choices. But in terms of the kind of era that we live through, the sad element of that is that we're so secluded, um, and, in many ways, given too much opportunities for choice, if that sounds weird. Not that that's a bad thing, but we're kind of secluded, in an isolated way, and we're shown so many different scenarios, so many different options and choices, and you can be this or you can be that, whatever. And for some people, it's kind of like a child that's given um, lots of different options to do different things or choose different things. Like, you know, putting a 3-year-old, in terms of human third dimensional existence reality, a 3-year-old into the proverbial Aladdin's cave, giving them all these options, saying, right, choose one of those options. What do you want to do? We're kind of at that precipice of choice now. So it's hard for people to kind of think, well, what is the right choice? And the only right choice is the feeling, the sense of being, sentient human being or sentient being, that you, a sense of something that you get. So it could be something really minor. You could be in a supermarket, waiting in a queue, which is really boring and mundane, and you could be thinking, oh my God, I've got to be in this specific place at this specific time. I can't get there if I have to wait in this queue any longer. And then somebody in the queue could turn to you and say something really poignant. In that moment, you feel complete just from the fact that that person has said those specific words to you. In that sense, that we can be multidimensional, we can be anything we choose. But in terms of a collective mentality, I sometimes feel we have too much choice. But, at the end of the day, there is no right or wrong. We can be co-creators in the whole third density, third dimensional experience. So we can change the paradigm. We can change the way things are. Nothing is set in stone or, forced upon us. We can change it. We can flow with anything we want. So it's a hard scenario because we can, as I say, we can be multidimensional. We can flit in and out of emotion. Emotion is also consciousness. So we can be feeling elated and wonderful and great and synchronized in one way, synchronized completely 100% at one stage of our lives, or one moment, one single moment. We can be feeling totally at one, connected with everything. And then all of a sudden we can throw ourselves out of that and challenge ourselves to become an opposition to the status quo, or what we previously considered to be the reality of our existence. But I also feel that that's a necessity. We have to have that, because if we didn't have that, we wouldn't understand or have any clarity in the reality of something, or the reality of what something means to us personally. Our essence of who we are, the essence of our aspect. Our aspect being a connection to the whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna wrap things up, and I guess this is something that I'm kind of picking from things that what I put out with the video, and it's from a post that Kevin did. There's nothing you can sing that can't be sung, and so I think it's all a matter of where your attention is at to sustain it, and how you network it. So like this song that we want to sing, this collective song that we want to sing, the Infinite Imaginarium, is that it's only a matter of our attention and being able to sustain that attention and that energy, this creativity. And like I said, the show was good. not because I was feeling like, oh, I had this great idea for a show or whatever. Focus me, to re-spark me, um, to continue to sing this song. And I think what we were talking about before, as long as the attention's there and you sustain it and it's true, it will happen. And I think we have to take a long view of things. And in a lot of ways too, I think it's a good thing, because what I think I speak for kind of the Infinite Imaginarium when I'm now that I'm going to say it, is that what we want to is something that most people are not singing. So at first, I think the attention is not going to be there, and it's going to be slow for it to go. But the more we stay true to ourselves and to this felt experience of each other, keep on refining our song, that the goal of this thing is for us to spark that change that we want to see in our reality, in our collective reality. So we're going to keep on singing our song, and I'm going to keep on drumming the beat, dancing to the songs of eternity. So thanks for everybody listening, and we'll keep on sparking the Imaginarium.